Don't move to Dunwoody, Georgia before you watch this video. To really understand whether or not it's worth moving here, you have to understand where Dunwoody is. Dunwoody is just a few minutes outside of the city of Atlanta. So even though it is considered a suburb of Atlanta, it's very different than some of the other suburbs of Atlanta. For example, there are cities like Sandy Springs or Vinings that are also very close to the city of Atlanta that have that kind of city urban feel and suburban feel. There are parts of Dunwoody that feel very urban and densely populated, and there are parts of Dunwoody that feel very suburban, lots of neighborhoods and like big residential areas. So if you want to be in an area that is all suburban and you don't want to be like super close to Atlanta, close to the city, and close to all of the things that are associated with living next to a big city, then you might not want to be in Dunwoody. But if you want that perfect mix of city life and suburban life, like if you want to live in the suburbs but be super close to Atlanta to get to events or work or whatever it is in the city, then Dunwoody is a great area for that. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living, and we put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the suburbs around Atlanta. The other thing that you really need to know about Dunwoody is that it's very similar to Sandy Springs. The chances are that if you're considering moving to Dunwoody or buying a home in Dunwoody, you're probably also considering Sandy Springs because they're not only super close to each other, they literally border each other, but they're also very similar in how they feel. Both of these cities have that kind of mix of the city life and the suburban life. Both of these cities are very close to the interstate. And so there's really a lot of similarities, even demographics. You can really find very similar kind of demographics in both of these cities. So they're both very similar, but there are some major differences between Dunwoody and Sandy Springs. And we should also go over those differences, especially if you're considering moving here. One of the biggest differences between Dunwoody and Sandy Springs is how the housing market has been in Dunwoody. If you're considering buying a home here, then feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out. I'm always happy to help. But in the last 6 months, the average home in Dunwoody has only been on the market for 4 days before going under contract. This is extraordinarily short amount of time when it comes to the amount of demand that we find for homes. Dunwoody is very high in demand for homes. For example, neighboring Sandy Springs has an average days on market of 13 days. So more than 3 times the amount of demand in Dunwoody as there is in Sandy Springs. That means that if you're considering buying a home in Dunwoody, you really have to have your ducks in a row. You got to be working with someone who is willing to be very aggressive and willing to compete with all of the other buyers who are considering buying a home in Dunwoody. On the other hand, the average home price is a little less expensive here. In the last 6 months, the average home price in Dunwoody has been about $700,000, whereas in Sandy Springs, it's been about $900,000. And both of these are kind of on the high end when it comes to the suburbs of Atlanta, but because they're so close to Atlanta, this is why you're paying a premium for homes. But that $200,000 difference between Dunwoody and Sandy Springs makes a world of difference when it comes to how much home you're getting for your money. In Dunwoody, you're going to get a bit more home for your money, but there's also going to be more demand. One of the reasons why so many people want to live here in this city is because of not only how close it is to Atlanta, but how close it is to some of the major roads. Highway 400 and 285 are right there in Dunwoody or very close to Dunwoody. So it really allows you to get to all the different parts of the city of Atlanta very easily from Dunwoody. Oftentimes people who live in the suburbs work in the city of Atlanta. And so this is a really popular city because of how close it is to Atlanta. Your commute from this suburb of Dunwoody to Atlanta could be 15 minutes. Compare that to the average suburb in Atlanta, and you're really looking at more like 30 to 45 minutes if you live in a typical Atlanta suburb like Marietta or Alpharetta or Woodstock. Those suburbs are going to be much farther away than Dunwoody. And so this is another big reason why so many people want to live here. In addition to that, you really have a lot of great options for shopping and for restaurants here in this city. Dunwoody Village is super popular. There are a bunch of restaurants there, a bunch of shopping. There's even like a big outdoor courtyard seating area. Like people who go to the restaurants there often find outdoor seating. They've got a big TV there. It's kind of like the city center of Dunwoody Village. Super popular. And then you can oftentimes find people out there playing or going to one of the restaurants there. And then also very close to Dunwoody, or kind of partially in Dunwoody, is Perimeter Center. And this is much closer to Highway 400 and 285. That intersection of those two roads is very densely populated. Lots of not only residential areas, but a lot of commercial areas there. Very often people who live in Dunwoody work there in Perimeter Center. There's a lot of big businesses around that area, but there's also a lot of shopping and restaurants in that area as well. When it comes to the public schools here, it's something you really gotta look a lot into. There are some good public schools, but a lot of people who live in this city have their kids go to like a private school. I think the private schools are a little better than the public school, but it really kind of depends on what part of the city you're in. For example, Austin Elementary School is a 9 out of 10 according to greatschools.org, but Dunwoody High School is a 6 out of 10. So it's kind of dicey, and I think this is why a lot of people choose private school over the public school. Now, you should also know that because of its proximity to Atlanta, you don't really find a whole lot of young families in Dunwoody. And because the schools are not like the best, all of these factors mean that you don't find a lot of families here in Dunwoody. You really find a lot of young professionals or retirees or people who are just trying to be very close to Atlanta. When it comes to families and having your kids go to the best public schools, there are other suburbs that I think have better public schools according to greatschools.org. But one thing that Dunwoody is very well known for is its community events. They have some great community events. Their 4th of July, they have a huge parade for the 4th of July. Also, the Dunwoody Arts Festival is super popular as well. So definitely lots of community pride in this city. And so this is absolutely one of the biggest draws for people who live here. No question that this is a great suburb, and there are so many great things going for it. If you want to know more about the top 5 suburbs of Metro Atlanta, you can check out that video right here. I'll see you in the next one.